Okay, you guys, good morning. Thank you guys for joining us. Today's session will be on how to calculate profit, grants for small business, and how to borrow. And it'll be facilitated by Caitlin Moore from Union Bank and Trust. And there's a few housekeeping rules, you guys. Just keep your phone on mute. Please try to be engaged. I know some of you guys are at work, and so you probably can't open your camera, but just try to be engaged. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and then I'll try to help Caitlin out by answering them for you guys. And Caitlin, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you. I do have the chat box open next to me. So if anybody has a question, that would be great. Yeah, I'm Caitlin Moore. I'm from UBT. Thanks for joining us this Saturday morning. I'm going to go through just kind of a review of what we talked about 2 weeks ago and answer some of the questions that we've gotten in the topics. I have a rundown of how to calculate profit. So I will show you how UBT does it when working with small business customers. And then I produce and host a podcast for UBT. And one of the things we've done recently is interview small businesses in Lincoln and talk to them about how they started. And they started at young ages and why they're successful. How did they get to the success point that they're at? And all of them are pretty still young. And there's 3 episodes and we just released the 2nd episode. So I'm actually going to play part of that episode. It's a YouTube recording, but it is on all of the podcast stations. So Apple Podcasts, Google, but there's a part at the end of one of the episodes that I interviewed our small business banker, Stacia, and she answers a lot of the questions that all of you have had over time. And so I just wanted to play it. It's about 13 minutes long, so everyone could maybe get some questions answered, or if it sparks more questions, send them on over. But it's a really great resource for just typical entrepreneurial questions that you may have. So we'll go through the PowerPoint here and just as a quick review. I know there are some new people on the line, so welcome. And then we'll go into the calculated profit and then we'll watch the podcast. So if there's any questions, I do have the chat box up. Feel free to ask along the way. So just as a review, I'm not here to talk you into small business banking through UBT. I just want to show you a little bit of our options that we have so that you're aware to how to just educate yourself on what works. One of the questions that we answered a couple of weeks ago was, when is a good time to open up a business account? And the answer to that is when you're ready to take payment. So when you're ready to take payment for whatever product you have or service, that is a good time to open up a business account, because you don't want to mix your business money with your personal money for tax reasons. So on UBT.com, we do have a tab that opens up to small business banking, and we do have various business accounts. The basic business is probably the one that most entrepreneurs open, just due to small fees and not having large amounts of money in those accounts. If you scroll down on that page, you'll see the comparison. So you'll see that you need a certain amount to open up the account. You need to hold an average balance in the accounts. For the business, the basic business banking, if you were to want to open up a business account, let me know, because we can get your fees waived up to a year. They're $12 a month as long as you hold a minimum of $500 balance in your account. But if you know that you're just starting out and maybe it's going to fluctuate up and down, let me know, because we could save you $12 a month in a fee if you just let me know, and I'll let our small business banker know that you're coming and then go from there. So that's kind of a perk of kind of going through this. One of the things we talked about last time that I just wanted to go over a little bit more was the idea of interest rates, because as you're looking at the financial piece of your small business and you're going to go for loans or credit cards or things like that, you do need to consider your interest rate, because if you're not paying off your debt every month, and this goes for personal, but mainly business, if you're not paying off your loans or your credit card, your business accounts every month, you are accruing more interest, which essentially is more debt. And so you want to make sure that you're looking for loans or credit cards that have certain types of interest rates. And there's 2 types of interest rates. One is a fixed and one is a variable. Fixed interest rates mean the rate is unchanging for the life of the loan. So if you took out a $10,000 loan, they're going to tell you your fixed interest rate is, I don't know, 3.5. Don't hold me to that, but let's just say 3.5. That means every month you're charged 3.5%. And you know this, so that way you can calculate your payments. That's why most car loans or mortgages, you know exactly how much you're going to pay every month. And that's because you have a fixed interest rate. It doesn't change over time. It's always the same. Now, variable rates are different where it's going to change over time. 1 month it may be 3.5, the next month it may be 5. And that's going to make your payment change. Now, sometimes it could be a lower payment, but sometimes it could be a higher payment. So when you're looking for loans, especially having to do with your business, starting out, you may not know exactly how much money is going to be coming in all the time. You want to make sure that you're going for a fixed rate. Sometimes the fixed rate, it will be advertised as a little bit higher than the variable. But the variable, again, will change over time. So sometimes there's a 6-month introductory rate. So you know that your variable rate will be pretty low, but after 6 months, it could skyrocket. So though it may be nice at the beginning, it's not always that way throughout the loan. So I just wanted to remind you all of that. Budgeting too, when we talk about calculating profit, we're going to get there today. I do want to remind you that having a solid budget with your personal finances also is going to be very, very, very important. When we look at small business suitability for loans or credit cards or accounts, our small business bankers, and I'm hoping other banks do this, want to know that you're on a budget. They want to see this. They actually ask for this. We want to see your business plan. We want to see your budget, especially if you're new. And so we need to know that you can budget for your business as well as your personal finances, because you as an individual and as a business owner, your personal finances absolutely influence your business opportunities as far as banking goes. When it comes to loans and credit cards, and say you took those out at UBT and you're having trouble paying those back, or you're having a bad month, which is, it happens in small businesses. The way that we work, and you need to be aware of this when you go into small businesses, when you're taking out loans, you need to ask these questions. What happens if I can't make a payment? What happens if I'm low on my cash flow that month? Because you need to know how to stay ahead of the game. So if you know it's going to be a bad month financially, what can you do? So at UBT, between 20 and 30 days, if you're overdue on your payment, you're going to start receiving phone calls, text messages, voicemails, and emails. It's part of the process. We have people who do this. It's super important that you always keep your information updated when it comes to banking. Always, always, always. Whether it's your personal finances, a loan, anything like that, you need to make sure if you move, you're updating that information within the bank. Because we're going to reach out to you if there's a problem. Now, my number one suggestion is if you are ever in a situation where you can't make a payment, or you're thinking it's going to be a tight month, I don't know if I could do this, just call the bank. There are things that they can do proactively, which means ahead of time before you're late, that you could take advantage of. One of the things UBT can do, and we'll get to it on the, actually, we'll get to it there, but I'll talk about some things that we can do, because we understand that within small businesses, you're going to have bad months, and that's okay. So what can we do without hurting your credit in the process? So after 30 days, UBT will report delinquent payments, meaning you haven't made them, to credit bureaus. So if you have a small business loan, we're going to report that to your personal credit bureau. So this will affect your credit if you're not paying. So it's super important to call the bank when you have a loan within the first, week or two, because after 20 days, they're going to start calling you. It's never a good idea to wait for a bank or a collections agency or anybody collecting money to call you. If you call them, they are way more willing to work with you. They really are. And it shows responsibility and just better business ownership when you're willing to be proactive about that. After 60 days past due, a referral will be sent out to a repossession company to repossess a vehicle, or try to get the collateral back. So collateral is what you brought forward to say, I want this loan, and if something goes bad, you can have this. There's a lot more to this. This would be in our credit kind of conversation that I do. Otherwise, feel free to ask. But how does that work when things are delinquent or there's repossession involved, and how can I kind of redeem the process? But it's definitely a good idea to call the bank ahead of time, especially when it comes to small business, because your business is your collateral. But communicate with your bank. Banks are always willing to work with you financially. There's things that they have the power to do, but you have to ask. They're not going to offer this stuff all the time. You have to ask, and they would rather you do it proactively. And being proactive, calling ahead of time means that you're probably going to avoid those fees, those late fees, things like that, which I know UBT often will take away late fees if you're having trouble paying something, because that's added money that you'd have to pay. So they're willing to take away some fees to help you out. So personal debt and how the bank can help. So UBT will attempt, if you have a loan that you're just struggling to pay, they'll attempt to actually lower your payment for 3 months. So if you call them and say, I have this loan, I'm just really struggling, what can we do? They very well might lower your payment. So if you owe $300 a month, maybe they'll knock it down to $200 or even less. They'll do this for up to 3 months. So it's kind of some buffer room. There is hardship extensions, meaning you can skip a payment every 6 months, up to 5 extensions. So this could happen for 2.5 years that you could get a skip payment. Now, it doesn't mean that they're forgiving that payment. What they do is they tack it on to the end. So if you had a certain number of payments, say you're paying on your car for 60 months and you skipped a payment, you're going to go out to 61 months. So you're still going to owe the money, but they're just going to let you skip it for now, but put it on to the end of the loan, which is great if you're having a hardship, because we don't know what it's going to be like in a couple of years. So maybe we can kick that out. And they also will change the loan terms. This is a big one that they've talked to me about. If you're eligible, there's certain things that make you eligible for this. But as an example of what that means to change your loan terms is, say you took out a loan for 60 months. So you're going to make payments for 60 months and you're halfway through it. So you've paid 30 months of this. It's been consistent, on time, every time. That's my mantra. And you're just really struggling to make payments. What they might do is they might take that remaining 30 months that you owe and stretch it out to 60 months. So that's decreased your payment by 50%. So they're spreading it out longer for you to make smaller payments. And that's something they're willing to do, especially if you've been communicative, proactive, you're calling them saying, this is what's happening. I just want to keep you updated, that you're not forcing them to track you down. It's just always a good idea to call first. Okay. So those are some things that they're willing to do for you. And when it comes to business banking, call your business banker. You're going to be assigned a business banker, the one that you can call. They're going to start building a relationship with you. They're going to know who you are, know what you do, what your business is about, because business bankers love that stuff. And so it's easy to call them and go, hey, Stacia, I'm just really struggling this month. What can I do? What can we do as a bank to help me maybe not make this payment or lower my payment or something like that? So it's just a good idea to make your business banker your friend. As Stacia will say, the 3 things you really need to start a business is a business banker, a lawyer, and an accountant. And those 3 people are going to be your best friends, and they need to, because we don't know it all as entrepreneurs, and that's okay. We don't have to know it all because there's other people that have the expertise. So get those 3 things: a business banker, an accountant, and a lawyer. Credit. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, and I just wanted to talk about it quickly. Your personal credit score affects your ability to do business banking. So if you have a really great idea right now for a business, and you want to start this business in the future, you need to take a look at your own finances right now. So pull your credit, look at your credit score, pay off debt, pay off collections, anything to get that score up, because that will absolutely affect your ability to do business and get loans or credit cards or anything like that. One of the things with debt when it comes to, like the last slide that we were talking about, a lot of people think, I have this car and I can't pay on it, so I'm just going to give the bank the car. It doesn't alleviate you of the debt. What they're going to do is they're going to try to sell the car, pay off your loan with whatever they get. But if there's anything left that they couldn't get, you owe that. So surrendering your item that you have for the loan, your collateral, doesn't alleviate you of debt. You still have to pay it. And not many people realize that. So getting a repossession or surrendering does not take you out of that. Just really important when it comes to business banking and your personal finances. You need to keep your information updated, because you will receive letters and emails and phone calls and text messages and voicemails, because the bank would rather deal with you than to have to throw you into collections or hire a repossession company or all this stuff. They'd rather just deal with you. I have heard a lot of people say, I never heard from anybody. I never heard from anybody. I never heard from anybody. And yet their car got repossessed. And that's just not the reality. What that means is that they didn't update their information. And so the bank couldn't track them down. So it's almost like they went into hiding, and then they had to get their car repossessed because they weren't paying on it, and the bank's going to take back the collateral. So it's super important to keep your information updated, because they're going to reach out to you ahead of time. Like the slide said in a couple slides ago, between 20 and 30 days of a late payment, they're going to be reaching out because they're going to want to know how they can help, especially at UBT. And I'm not just saying that because I work for them. They are very, very devoted to customer service. They would rather help you than to throw you into collections, to take away your car, to take back the collateral. So UBT is a really good bank to work with because we're local, and with local companies, you get more of that customer service. Small business grants. So Stacia is going to talk about this in the podcast, but I mentioned this and I got some more information about this. The small business grants in the state of Nebraska are limited. There are grants for entrepreneurs. Most of them within the grants, I don't know why this slide looks wonky, and I apologize. It's not the information that we needed, but I'll talk about it. So small business grants are limited. There are a lot of grants available for entrepreneurs and small business startup companies in the tech world. So if you're not in the tech world, it's going to be a lot harder. There is a grant out there from, I will send Barbara the link and the name. I just got it. And I think maybe SCORE talked about it last week when they were with you, but there is a grant that does help. They like tech companies more, but if you can get in there and talk about your information, they might be more willing to give you a grant, even if it's not a tech company. So they're few and far between. You may have to look outside of the state for grants. But if you're in the tech world, that's absolutely going to get you a grant somewhere as a small business. But as I get information, I'm happy to pass that on to Barbara or Maisha, because I want people to receive this information as we get it. And I'm still kind of venturing into that world, but I know SCORE is a great nonprofit to work with when it comes to finding those things. So definitely reach out to them too. So is there any questions as far as what we've talked about kind of in review before I go on to the calculating profit? No? Okay. I'm going to break this up then. Sorry, just give me a moment here. Okay. Can someone let me know if you can see this screen, the Excel form?
Yes, I can see it just fine, Kate.
Perfect. Okay. So this is what UBT utilizes within their small banking world to calculate profit. And I'm going to go through what this looks like. You don't have to have a copy of this, but this is just going to give you an idea of how to do it. But basically, to calculate profit, you need to understand what you're spending and how much you have left over. That's pretty much it. How much did you make? How much did you spend? How much do you have left over? It gets very technical when it comes to your business, depending on your products and what you're spending money on. So if you have a lot of products, then you're going to spend a lot more. But if it's a basic thing like technology, it may just be a computer or the technology behind that. But on this PowerPoint, all of these things filter the money for you, so you don't have to do the math, which is nice for someone like me. But over here, you're going to have things like product review. So what are your products? How much are you spending on them? So if I have a product, I'm thinking of a candle company that I interviewed for the podcast. They don't have that many products because they make candles. So they need something to put the candle in. They need the wax. They need the wick, and then they need labels. It's very basic. And then the scents that they put into the candle, like very basic in a sense. So maybe their products, they don't have that many, but they're spending money on the glass jars for the candle, that would go here. And then they're spending money on the wax, and then they're spending money on the wicks. So very little amount of information, but they're going to put how much they spent here. And then how much they earned. Oh, this is revenue, excuse me. So how much they're making off of their candles. So they only sell candles. So they're going to have product one as a candle. How much do they make? The cost of the goods. So this is where they're going to put in, like I was just mentioning, how much do they spend on the product in order to sell it? So they have to make all this. So maybe they spent $5 per candle, but they're spending $5 to make a candle, but they're selling that candle for $15. So now they've made a $10 profit. But there's things that they're doing on the side that you're going to do in your small business. Like, are they advertising? Do they have a car that they're spending money on for their business? There's various things. Maybe they have an office, or they're renting a storefront to sell their candles, the supplies that they need. So maybe they need a wax melter, for their candles. It's like a one-time cost, but they need it. Maybe they're traveling around to try to sell their product, or they're spending money on postage, because that's what they are. They sell these candles and they have to send them to people, or bubble wrap or things like that. So there's various things that you're going to spend money on to operate your business. You can buy pens, and that be a business expense because you're writing things down, or do you have to get a receipt book, or do you need a computer? There's various things that you're going to spend money on to just operate your business in the background. And you need to take note of that. Now, it may be a one-time cost. It may be a monthly. You could break that down. Like in a budget, if we're saving proactively, I need a new computer. So I'm going to save $50 a month, and I'm going to do that for a year so that I can go buy a computer at the end of the year with cash. Those are the type of things, even in your business, that you're going to be doing. Mileage, your car. I met with somebody who cuts hair, so she has to pay for her booth. So that's an expense that she has every month. So there's different things that you do that maybe it's not your product. It's not the thing that you're selling, but it helps aid in that selling. So you have to account for those type of things, especially advertising. That's a big one. If you're advertising on social media, if you're using a website to help you advertise that does it for you, or a design website, you got to account for those costs that you're using. So though my candle company has made $10 off this one candle as a product, I may have to apply it, that $10 over here, to help the cost to run my business. Once we have those numbers in there, it's going to calculate that. So I spent money, I made money, but I also spent money again on the operation costs. So we have to consider those things. And then we have other expenses, which may be depreciation of our products. So I interview a t-shirt design company, screen printing company. So they use big machinery, but over time, those machines break down. So they're not worth what they were before. You may have a commercial loan, meaning you bought a building and you're paying on that loan. You may have a credit card debt within the company because you've had a hard month and you had to put some things on the credit card. So there's different expenses that you may accrue because you own a business. And we have to consider those though we made $10 on this candle, I have to apply that back to my credit card or my rent or something like that. So all of these things, we will take account of what we've done for the month. And then the net income, your net is how much you made before taxes. Your net is usually what you take home. Gross is everything. Gross is the whole package. How much did I make this month? And the net is after all of my expenses, how much do I get to take home? Income tax are going to look different with small businesses than it is your personal. So that's why you need an accountant to tell you what to account for. We cannot do that at UBT. We will not tell you how to do your taxes because we are not tax experts. But just know that you will pay taxes and you have to account for that when you earn money. So that $10 I made on that candle, I may need to tuck away $1 or $2 for income taxes. And then at the end of the day, that's going to give you your profit. How much you get to take home, or how much you're going to put back in your business. A lot of business owners pay themselves a certain amount of money every month. They're not looking to just take home profit. They say, I'm going to make this much money, or I'm going to pay myself this much money. Everything after that goes back into the business. So you're still earning an income. Now, some people just take what they can, especially early on. Any profit is their income. and that may fluctuate every month, but the net profit or loss, because you may be in the red that month, but that's going to tell you how to do it. So this is just an Excel sheet that we use at UBT to help people get started. I can get permission to send this. I may not get that permission, but if I do, I will send this on. So you as a small business owner or entrepreneur can kind of get used to the idea of how do I calculate my profit. But for the most part, it's really easy where it's just how much did we make this month? How much did we spend this month? How much are we putting away for taxes? And then at the end of the day, what do I get to take home with me? That's how you calculate profit, which is the same way that we calculate a budget, a personal budget. How much did I make? How much did I spend? How much do I get to bring home with me? That's a budget. So your profit or your loss sheet like this is going to be the same thing as a budget. It's just going to be for your business. So that's why I say get used to making your own budget, your personal budget, so that you can apply those same practices to a business. It's going to be really important that you learn how to do that, or you have a really good CPA to do it for you. QuickBooks is one of those. Stacia will mention that. They do all this for you. They're going to have something like this Excel sheet to do that for you, but you have to be diligent in getting in there and putting that information in there. But that's for the most part how to calculate a profit. So is there any questions on that? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat box. Okay. Everyone's just learning everything. This is great. Okay. So I'm going to switch over and I'm going to play this, the piece of this podcast. Now this podcast in particular was just released on Wednesday. So it is live and available in all avenues. And I can send a link to Barbara to send to you in your emails. We do have a YouTube channel at UBT. And so this is on the YouTube. I know some people just like to watch. So this is what it is. And I just thought it would be a really great opportunity to share it with everyone. So let me get this up here. I got to make volume available. Give me a second. Okay, here we go. Let me know if we don't hear the volume. So I'll just assume that you can. All right, we are back with our community partner segment for our small business podcast. I'm here again with Patrick Reese to co-host. We are here with Stacia Theisen. She's been with UBT as a business banker for about 5 years, and she is our expert on small business banking. So thank you, Stacia, for being with us.
Hello, nice to be here.
So we're going to do things a little bit different today because I get a lot of questions when I'm in the community teaching the financial literacy or doing financial coaching. I get a lot of questions about small business banking. We've got entrepreneurs coming out of college, they're early 20s and they want to start a business and they've got really good ideas, but there's a lot that goes into that, not just a good idea. So I've got a ton of questions I want to ask you today, but let's just start with kind of a rapid fire question time. So let us begin. The number one question I get from entrepreneurs is, when is a good time to start a business account?
What I would say is when you are going to start receiving payments, that is when you need to have your business account, because you don't want your business fund to commingle with your personal funds. You want to keep them separate.
Okay, perfect. And I guess that goes right into another question that I get. Does your personal credit and your personal finances affect your business, whether it's to start a business or start business account? Does your personal finances affect that at all?
Not to start a business, no. But when you need, let's say, a line of credit, commercial credit card, any type of those accounts, we do pull a credit report. It's full. It doesn't hurt your numbers. Look at how historically you handle your credit personally, and that will give us an indication how you'll handle your business credit. At Union Bank, our minimum credit score that we look at for our requirement is 650. So if you are below 650, you are a new business, you will not meet our requirement because you don't have historical financials to show that you can cash flow, that your business can pay for it. So I had a customer come in. He was a new plumber. He just went on his own, started his own company. He needed some equipment. He came in, his business was, picking up, but unfortunately I could not help him. So what he did was he went out and got a national credit card, put payments on that, paid it off monthly. And after a year, he got up to what I could help him with in regards to a line of credit for his business. Okay. To answer the question, yes. So we look at your personal credit score. Again, it shows us personally how you can handle your credits. Therefore, it will show us how you can handle your business credit.
One of the things that down here at the university, we get all the time, as students start to get close to that graduation, or they graduated and now they have an idea or something they really want to pursue, and they don't really want to go and get a job. They want to start their own business, start their own company, and start moving forward on their own, which is admirable. But one of the things is, where do I start?
Well, I would suggest, one, get it down on paper, business plan. We want to know the roadmap that's inside your brain. We want to see it down, and we want to see how you're going to execute it. To go back on personal finances, we do take a look at cash reserves. So if someone comes in with absolutely no savings accounts and wants $10,000 from the bank, you're asking the bank to make that risk and invest in you. We want to see also what kind of money have you saved to invest in yourself. So a lot of times, I'll talk to college kids or, even adults who want to take the risk and start their own business, where they either get a full-time job to help with that cash reserves, start that savings account, start building up your financials strong enough that you do have a down payment if required, but also to show the bank, I have this money on reserves, so I can pay this till my business can pay it. So a lot of times I would start with cash reserves, like make sure you have, you may not do the job you are wanting to do, but it's going to get you to the end part of the business that you want to be doing, like your passion, but you have to kind of get through it to get to the end goal. And so the second step that I tell people to go pull your credit, I believe it's called annualcreditreport.com. You can go pull your credit report, get an idea of your score. A lot of issues that we have with college students, they're new to the scene, so they open up credit cards and they may not pay it on time. So you really got to know where your credit score is, and start paying those cards down if that's the issue, to get your score back up. If not, the other extreme is that they're very, protective of their credit. Therefore, they haven't opened a credit card and they don't have a score. So therefore, you need to start opening one up, put your gas on there every month, pay it off every month, just start building up your credit. So it's either one extreme to the other. So you really got to understand where you fall on that spectrum.
Yeah. And we just did an episode about credit, and just this idea of even establishing credit with paying your bills on time, your utility bills or your phone bill or something like that. You don't even have to have a credit card to establish strong, healthy credit. You just need to make sure you're paying on time every time when it comes to your bills, which is a great idea. Or a secured credit card is a great route to go too.
Yes.
If you're just starting out.
How often do you see that where people think that they need a loan or a line of credit initially to start the business, when in fact they probably really don't?
A lot of people feel like they need that to make their business more reputable. Like they have a credit card or they have a line of credit. In reality, your business credit doesn't get turned into the bureau. Like there's no record of that. It's under your business name. It stays in the bank. In actuality, no, you do not need your business to have any type of funding if it does not need it. And I think that should be the ultimate goal, honestly. If you can start your business with no debt, and then in 4 years, your business grows to a point where, you need that piece of equipment, you need that vehicle, you have that 4 years relationship with the bank sees you as a business customer, how you managed your checking account, and that helps get you approved, because we can look back and say, oh, you've handled your checking account, really well. It's never been overdrawn. You're a strong business owner. And we may have issues, let's say, with collateral or with their personal credit, but having that relationship with the bank for that many years or even a year, it helps us mitigate the risk of giving you that money.
I'm really glad you brought that up, Patrick and Stacia. That was a great answer, because with Ink Alley, our small business that's on this podcast, they went into their business without taking out credit. And that was really, that's been the message of Ink Alley and Cardinal and Pine and some of the other small businesses we've interviewed, is they said, don't think too far ahead, like one step at a time. You don't have to overdo it at the beginning. You need to know that there's going to be revenue coming in and that your product is going to sell prior to dumping all this loaned money into your business. So I'm glad you said that from a banking perspective of the relationship is often more important at the beginning than having this extra line of credit you don't necessarily need. And that has just been the message all down the line with all of our small business interviews, which has been great to hear. People who have been successful, even at a young age, were the ones that said, I use my cash reserves and I just parked these really great ideas until we could afford to do so, until it was worth doing it.
That shows the bank also that you have such passion for what you're doing. You're investing in yourself. So we should invest with you too.
When it comes to accounts that are available, what are typical small business accounts or products that are available?
So I typically deal with line of credits to help with cash flow. So a lot of businesses, once they start adding employees, they like to have that line of credit kind of like a safety blanket, where if there's a tight month, they can go into that line and help with payroll or utilities or anything like that till a receivable comes in and they have that income. Kind of helps them sleep at night, that their employees will be paid. So that's huge. We deal with that a lot. Vehicle loans that they want to buy under their business name. That's big too, especially with construction, electricians, plumbers, things like that. Commercial credit cards where they just kind of want that credit card when they need it, especially if they have multiple employees. They'll give each employee a credit card for gas and things like that. We do deal with commercial real estate to a point. Small business department, we handle $500,000 and lower. After that, it goes up to the commercial loan officers.
Another question I get on a regular basis is, how do I get an EIN number, which is your business number, basically?
Tax ID, yep.
Yeah. How does somebody go about getting that?
They would go to the Secretary of State website. They have all the forms, all the information. That's where I tell a lot of people to start with. And then my next advice to any business owner is get an accountant. They will advise you how you should be filing, how just the risk of what you're doing, kind of make them more comfortable in regards to keeping track of their income, expenses, things like that. So they know what to turn in quarterly, yearly, whatever the case may be, for their taxes. But yeah, the Secretary of State website has great information. And
their Secretary of State will be able to help with whether they should be an LLC or a sole proprietorship, things like that, right?
Well, they have the forms and they have like the frequently asked questions to kind of help out. They would refer them also to an accountant. They're not giving the advice of what you should be filing as. You're starting a business, I would sit down with an accountant. It would be my number one thing. A banker, and if you need, a lawyer. Those are the three people you would really need on your team.
The big three, huh?
The big three.
The big three. Well, and I just want to clarify real quick. When you say Secretary of State, that's Secretary of State of Nebraska, right? State Secretary of State. Okay. Just wanted to clarify for our listeners out there.
Okay. So another big question, how does one calculate profit?
The easiest thing I always say is take your gross receipts minus all your expenses, and then your net income is your profit. For that month, I would do it monthly. I would not do it quarterly when you start out with, because you need to start getting used to documenting, especially your expenses, and seeing how it changes and fluctuates month over month. Excel has if you're in Excel, you can put in formulas that automatically calculates it for you. QuickBooks is a good software that people will download and use, that you just put in your expenses and automatically calculates what your net income is for that month. But really, it's just your sales minus what it costs to get those sales is what you end up with, is your net income.
Perfect. Sounds easier said than done.
Not a calculus equation, huh? That seems far more simple.
To close, I just want to ask, is there any common questions that you're hearing from folks as they come into your office to start business accounts?
One thing that we did not touch on that a lot of people will ask me is collateral. So when they come in for a loan, either a line of credit or just the regular term loan, we do ask about their collateral status. One, it helps mitigate the risk for Union Bank. It also helps them on the rate. They get a lower rate if we do have it secured. A lot of younger people may have a car they could put up for collateral. Some people have brought in parents as co-signers to use their home as a collateral, or their car, or their cash reserves. We can put in a CD. We covered a lot today, and I think that's the only thing that really was untouched, was just the collateral and how do I help with my loan requests, mitigating the risk for Union Bank.
And when we say collateral, to be clear, it's something to back the loan up. So if something goes wrong with the loan, then the risk is within that collateral. It's within that car. It's within the co-signer to pay it. It's within the house, something like that. It's to back the loan.
Yep, exactly.
And is that always necessary for a business account if you're getting a line of credit or a loan that there is collateral attached to it?
No, it's not always necessary. Again, it would go back to the kind of relationship we've had with the business or the individual. So we're more familiar with them. If it was someone who called me up today and has a startup with no historical financials and they wanted a $50,000 line of credit with no collateral, it would be really difficult for me to get that approved through the underwriter unless they have cash reserves, unless they have a strong credit, or they would still need to show some type of investment in themselves, like putting something down or putting something up for collateral. The equipment that they're asking for could be good collateral. So it does work out where what you're buying, we will take, the lien on that collateral. So in case anything happens, we can go and liquidate that equipment down the debt.
So if somebody needed some farm equipment, that's their collateral. They don't need, they don't need other things. Okay. Well, Stacia, I've learned a ton. I'm sure Patrick has too. So thank you so much for your time and being on MoneyBetter today.
Thank you guys. It was fun.
Okay. Any questions about the podcast? We've got a ton of questions in the chat, so I want to address.
Kayla must have a lot of questions in the chat.
Yep. So we can, let me pull that up here. Really great questions. I'm very excited everybody's asking these. So I'm just going to go up to the top and we are going to go down the line here. So I'm trying to start a lip gloss brand. What could I make making a business plan. Okay. Barbara, can you answer this question? Has SCORE come in already to talk about business planning?
SCORE won't be in until
next week.
They won't be until the 29th. So I really can't answer that one.
So we at UBT would direct you elsewhere to do a business plan. So I will tell you that SCORE is going to talk about it because I met with her, Diane, who's going to do your presentation, and she's going to talk about it. So those of you who had the question, how do I make a business plan? SCORE is the nonprofit that's coming in next week, and they're going to talk about their resources to help you with that. So we're going to skip that question. How much money do you have to put down to start a business account, and how can the bank help us manage money for our businesses? Okay, great question. You don't have to put anything down to start a business account. You do need to, it's $50 to start the business account, and that goes into your account. You're not paying the bank for the account. You're putting it into your account. You need to keep a balance of $500 throughout the month, an average balance. So sometimes you could have $1,000, sometimes you could have $250, but it needs to balance to about an average of $500 a month. So if you do have $500 that you can just keep in your account, you're going to avoid getting fees. Now, like I said at the beginning, if you're ready to open up an account and you want to go through UBT, let me know. And I will let our small business, Stacia, who you just saw, know, so that they will not charge you a fee for a year. So you can have a fluctuating balance in there without being charged a fee, but the fee is $12 a month to have that business account. Your small business banker, anywhere you go to do small business banking, should be the one that's going to help you manage your money, plus your accountant. Okay. Business bankers aren't there to help you with every aspect of it, but they're going to be the ones that you could call and say, hey, I have this question. And then your accountant, which you need, is the one that's going to help you maybe make the budget, keep that reconciled, keep all your numbers, you hand them your receipts, things like that, depending on how much you want them involved. So your business banker is there to walk you through. They have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to businesses, and they'll point you in the right direction if it's not the bank's role to help you within that. So that's a really great question there. How do you write a business plan? SCORE will talk about this next week. So I'm going to skip that because we do not do that at UBT. So savings is needed when trying to start a business. Not necessarily. What Stacia was saying is, for those that are coming in for the first time and saying, I'm starting this business, but I want a loan or I want a credit card, they're going to look more at your savings as collateral because they don't know you. So when it comes to banking within the business world, it's all about relationship, which seems weird because we have this business and we're going to bring in numbers and money and things like that. But when it comes to what you're going to be able to do, the longer you are with a bank, the more they are going to trust you and the more that they're going to get to know you. And so when you're walking in for the first time saying, I want to open up a business account for my new business, but I also need a credit card, they're going to go, I don't know you. And so I don't know if you're trustworthy or what your finances look like that you're going to pay your bills. Now, I have heard from Stacia. She said, if you've been a UBT customer for 5 years and you're wanting to start a business, that's great, because now we have a relationship. We can look and say, oh, they've been pretty good about paying their bills on time, and this is their income. And they can look at your bank account information to see how reliable you are as a person with your money. One of the things I've been told too is that if you're ready to start a business and you can do the business account now, like keep that balance of 500, do it as soon as you can, because the day you open that account is the day you start that relationship. So maybe you're not planning on having like a very large business or a growing business for a couple of years, but you're dabbling in it as a side hustle right now. It's a good time to open up a business account because you're going to establish that relationship and then pay your bills on time every time. And that's going to help you in the long run when the banker is looking at whether or not you can handle a loan or something. Now, savings. She talked about that at the end. Maybe I took it out. I asked the question. I did. I edited this out. I said, she gave this example of somebody coming in with $50,000 in their savings account and they wanted a $50,000 loan. And I said, well, if they have $50,000, why do they want a loan? And she said, well, typically people want to hang on to their cash. It's their cash reserve. So if something happened like COVID and they can't pay their employees that month, they have this cash in their savings. So they want a loan because they need to do things with this money. They need to buy machinery. They need to buy product. They need to do something like that, but they don't want to give up their cash to do so. But their cash, their savings is considered their collateral. So if something were to go wrong with that loan, that $50,000 loan, they have the cash to just pay it off instead of it defaulting or the bank losing out with this risk. So when she said you don't have to have cash, it means you don't have to have savings. You could be just starting off and you're going to start saving. You're going to start using your product line to help you save, things like that. It's when you want other things like a loan or a credit card. If you don't have a relationship with the bank or you're new, something like that, they're going to look at your savings. They also want to know, and I don't know if she said it or I edited out a lot of this episode, so forgive me if she did say this, but she said that when it comes to new business owners, so small entrepreneurs, banks really want to know that you have invested in yourself by saving. They want to know that you've taken the time to say, I'm important. My life is important. So I'm going to invest in me by saving. So like I said, your personal finances do make a huge impact on your business ability because they're looking at those things saying, has Caitlin invested in herself? Does she have any savings? It doesn't mean that you have to have savings, especially if you're young. It's not always the case that people have savings or a lot of savings. Not everybody has $50,000 in their account, and that's fine. I think the bankers just want to know that you're capable of saving, that you're not spending more than you make every month, that you're responsible with your money, because that's when you're telling the bank, yeah, I could pay my bills. Yeah, give me a loan because I have the money to pay this off. So that cash reserve is really important. Somebody said, I know a lot of people who have a 6-figure business with little to no credit and have gotten a lot of loans to help them get their business going. Absolutely. You don't have to have a high credit score. UBT, it's not in the podcast, but UBT needs a minimum credit score of 650 to open up a business loan or credit card. So that's not a high credit score, 650. And most loans within banks go within 630, 640, 650 as a minimum. Some of them are higher depending on what type of loan, but 650 is not a huge score. That's not a unreachable score. But for them, it's not to open up the business account. It's to get things like loans and credit cards for your business. So 650 is one of those. So those who you're talking about with like 6-figure incomes, maybe they don't have great credit, but they have a minimum of 650, which is not that's considered good credit. It's not even great credit. It's just good credit. She said she won't help out people with low credit score. She was referring to a loan. because they have to have a minimum of 650. So what was not in there was that I edited out is that a gentleman came in, wanted a loan. He had just started a business, and he had like a 600 credit score, and UBT has a minimum of 650. So what he did was he opened up a secured credit card. So that's one where he put the money down first. And then he used his credit card just as a credit card, and raised his credit score and came back a year later and was ready to go. And they said, yeah, you're already banking with us. We know your habits. You opened up this credit card. You've done really great with it. So yes, we can trust you with getting this loan for your small business and getting you going on the small business side, because we've built a relationship with you and you've raised your credit score too for the minimum that they legally have to have. So if I save up enough money to start a business on my own, can I still open up a business account? Yeah, absolutely. The credit score and the collateral have to do with loans or credit cards. But if you have cash and you just want to open up and start going with a business account, a checking, a savings, absolutely, you can do that. You do not have to have high credit score to do that. The business account, meaning the checking and savings, is totally different when it comes to business banking than the credit card and the loans and things like that. And when I say loan, it could be a business loan, it could be a car loan for your business, things like that. How do you determine your legal business structure? I'm going to leave that to SCORE to answer next week. That's talking about like the LLC, sole proprietorship, things like that. How do you determine what kind of business you want? And a lot of it has to do with whether you're going to have employees or not, if it's just going to be you and maybe one other, how you're going to pay your taxes, things like that. So SCORE actually they can help you with that. They can refer you to people that know what they're doing. Your accountant or CPA can absolutely help you with that. UBT cannot, for legal reasons, help you, but SCORE is where, if you asked me or even Stacia, small business, she would point you to SCORE because they do all of this for free. They help get you to the right places for free. They're a great, great asset to have within your small business. What's an EIN number? Great question. So this is the tax ID number. This makes you get a tax ID number when your business is a legal business. So you have filed within the Secretary of State to say, I own this business. I want this name. It's mine. You are going to get a tax ID number, and that's how you file your taxes. So that makes you a legal business. So within a business account, you need an EIN number. You need something to say that you are a legal business, and that's an EIN number. So tax ID number, EIN. So that's kind of the lingo that they use within the small business world. Great question. How you get one is to file with the Secretary of State. So secretaryofstate.gov, something like that. It's the Nebraska Secretary of State. So you would file to say, I'm an LLC, a sole proprietorship, whatever you determine your company to look like, a nonprofit, something like that. And then you're saying, I want my name to be this. And then the state will look into whether that business is already existing or that name already exists, things like that. And then they're going to give you a tax ID number to say, hey, you're a legal company now. And that's what you're going to use for a lot of things. You need that tax ID number. You're going to know it. You're going to learn your tax ID number because it's super important when it comes to your small business. Even if you're opening up, I'm thinking of like a Costco card, a business account at Costco or Sam's Club. They're going to ask you for your tax ID number so that they know that you're a business. Next question, when starting your business, getting the business account is registered and everything, should it be done before selling anything? Not necessarily, but that's what I've been told. But if legally, you should be paying taxes on your earnings. And so it is super important if you're going to have a business that you have that tax ID number. Now, some people have side hustles. They do things and they sell things on the side. But if you're at the point where you need to file taxes, which legally you should at a certain amount, I would talk to an accountant or a CPA about that. Then you should probably have a business account so you can keep track of that. Would it be better to start at the beginning or along the way? Because with me still being young, having an idea already, knowing what all comes with the business. Yeah. So I'm guessing what you're asking here is, should I open up a business account even, should I start the business right away because I have this idea and this is what I want to do? It's not going to hurt you to just do it, to file for the EIN number, get your legal business name and get the company going and then opening up a business account with that too, because you're establishing that relationship with the bank. And even if you take a couple of years to really build up your business, you're establishing these good habits with a bank and your money and things like that, starting small. Then you have less to work with at this point. So you can learn healthy habits with that. And then when you're ready to take that big step of getting a loan or a credit card or hire employees, that you're ready to go and the bank already knows you in that. So like she said, the time to start a business account is when you start taking payment. That could be very early on, and your business does not have to be big. So I would encourage you, based off what our small business or business bankers would say, is to start as soon as you're ready. It could be now, it could be later, but if you're ready to just get that business name going and get those business account going, it's only going to help you in the long run. Now, SCORE next week will definitely address this, because there is a lot more to opening up a business than just getting a name and a business account. I mean, there is a lot more to this. So some people aren't ready to take that step when it comes to maybe getting an accountant or getting a lawyer, something like that, because of the financial responsibility involved. But SCORE will be a great person to ask that same question to next week. They do all that. They're great. What capital do I have access to? Capital is within your control. What capital gain, that's within your budget and your finances, and what assets you have. I started my business in 2020 with no more than $1,000. How could I better my brand? Okay, Diane, who's going to talk to you next week, she is a marketing guru, and that is what she does. That's one of the pieces that she does at SCORE. She is a person that if you're ready to advertise your product, she helps you with that. The online, the socials, the brand, things like that. She's the one that at SCORE. So SCORE is a nonprofit that has all these people that volunteer to help small businesses get started. And so she's one of those people that does that as far as branding and bettering your brand. So she's going to be a great person to ask that question to. How do I choose a business structure? We went through that. How soon do I need to get a federal and state tax ID number? That's likely going to go hand in hand with if you're receiving payment and you need to file taxes on behalf of your business, you need to get an EIN number. So I would do that as soon as you can. When and how do we turn a profit? That's really up to you. So not everybody gets a profit with, I've heard the average is like a year to turn a profit, because most people, if you do receive a profit within your small business, most people put it back into the business right away because we're building up our small business. So it's really up to you and your business plan and your business structure. One of the things that I would encourage you to do is to watch these podcasts on YouTube or listen to them, because I address this with the small businesses that I interview. I interviewed 3 or 4 small businesses here in Lincoln about how they started. One of which I mentioned in this episode that I played you. The first half is with a small business, Ink Alley, the screen printing shop here in Lincoln. Super awesome guys. They're young. They started young. One of the things that they said was they earned a profit the first month, and they've never not earned a profit. But the key to that was they started small. They didn't buy a bunch of things that they now had loans on or couldn't afford to pay. They literally just used what they had for the time that they had it. And they worked other jobs, and at night they would go home and they would do their screen printing business. And there came a point where they started working full-time at their screen printing, which was pretty soon. But their goal was, we're not going to spend a lot to start. We're just going to spend with what we have and get a small screen printing machine. And that's what we're going to do. So they made a profit because they didn't spend a lot to start. And that's the key. And every single small business I have talked to and interviewed also, because I've talked to several beside that, said the same thing. In order to build a profit, don't go out and spend a bunch of money. Don't get a $50,000 loan because you have a good idea. That's not the case. You need to test it. You need to see if it's going to work. SCORE is one of those people that you can go to companies and say, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? And they're going to tell you, in this market, it's probably not a good idea. Or what market can we determine you working with? Is it online? Is it within the community? They're going to talk through those. because they don't want you to go into debt trying to create this idea that maybe already exists or somebody's already doing it really well. And so you don't want to spend a lot of money if you want to profit, because now you're going to be making payments on loans or machinery or cars, things like that. Like build up to that point. That's how we turn a profit, is you're not spending as much as you're making. And then what capital do I have access to? That's within your, everyone's going to be different. It's a personal thing within capital. So, great questions. What other questions do we have? I think for those of you that are able to jump on next week and talk to SCORE, even if you can't ask your questions, learn about what they do, because they really should be one of the first people you talk to as an entrepreneur, going to them and saying, I have this idea, or I've been doing this side hustle for a little while and I want to enhance it. What are my first steps? SCORE will direct you in that process. And they're fantastic in what they do, because they'll say, go to UBT and open up a business account. Go to this person or here's a number of accountants. You need to call one, or let me help you make a business plan, things like that. They have people that are willing to help you with that. So they're going to be a great resource next week. I wish that UBT could do it all, but we don't. We're just in the banking side. And so I can't answer all those questions, but I think SCORE and what I've learned about them and sat down and talked with Diane, it's fabulous. It's going to be exactly what you all are looking for in the entrepreneur world. Well, that is all I have. I hope I addressed everything. I think I did. I will send out the information to Barbara about the podcast, because I would strongly suggest listening to those. And they're about 30, 45 minutes. And you could watch them on YouTube too. So
sounds good.